It's Ricky Rich with Black Primacy with a quick question. Have you downloaded the Black Primacy app yet? If you haven't, don't worry about it. I just wanted to remind you that it is the number one way to find black owned businesses near you. Whether you're looking for food, fashion, or services, we've got you covered on this app. So download it now and start supporting black owned businesses in your area today. All right? Link in the description.
Someone knew me from a show.
Yep.
I sent out a letter, and then they paid $1.3 million the next week. That was my first settlement. I was shot at when I was younger. Some of my best friends were killed. And my aim is to get people civil and financial justice, not criminal justice.
You helped the client settle a $5 million case from gun violence. Tell us more about that case and how did you resolve it?
While they are leaving their apartment complex, someone tailgates into the property, shoots probably 70 rounds into their car, and empties a clip.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Money Show. You know, a famous philosopher once said, you know, more important is lawyer fees. You got to have your legal team together. So on today's episode, we got an amazing guest. Josiah Graham is a personal injury attorney specializing in catastrophic injury, medical malpractice, and wrongful death, with over $20 million recovered for his clients, including high-profile cases involving shootings and wrongful deaths. Josiah is dedicated to helping victims get justice and closure. So with no further ado, Josiah, how you feeling, man?
Feeling great, man. I'm glad y'all got me out here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming to the city, man.
Yeah, you're looking like money. You feel like money, you know what I'm saying?
You got to put it on sometime.
Yeah, gotta put that on.
Yeah. So before the episode,
Yes,
we talked about you helped the client settle a $5 million case
Yep.
from gun violence.
Yes.
One, how does that feel as an African American man to be doing that for people that look like us? And number two, just tell us more about that case and how did you resolve it?
Yeah. Well, man, growing up in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale, I grew up in the hood, and gun violence was prevalent.
Yeah.
Growing up, I didn't realize that a lot of people who get shot and killed at strip clubs, bars, you hear about it.
Yep.
Oh, so and so got robbed at Take One or the Rolex or the Mint Lounge or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought nothing came of it, but I came to learn that property owners have a responsibility to keep their patrons safe, reasonably safe. They don't gotta, not Superman and jump in front of a bullet, but do simple things. So once I realized that, I tapped into that space.
Okay.
And it's so rewarding to represent victims of gun violence because I was shot at when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
Some of my best friends were killed. In fact, the very first shooting case that I worked on, I knew nothing about this type of law.
Yeah.
My friend Jeffrey Brown was shot and killed in the projects in Lauderhill, Florida, a rough area, over there in Deepside.
Okay.
And his family came to me. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I went online and looked on the docket. I learned from some of the best negligent security lawyers. I just copied and pasted their depositions, their motions. I taught myself negligent security. This was back in like 2018.
Gotcha.
Since then, I've been one of the most foremost negligent security experts in South Florida.
Wow.
Because we sued that apartment complex. We came to learn that they had dozens of shootings, rapes, assaults, batteries, all those things happening at that property. The owner knew about it and didn't do anything to protect their guests or their tenants.
Gotcha.
People were complaining, hey, can you fix the broken gate? Nothing. Hey, can you hire security? They actually had security. They fired them, and the crime rate went up. So we sued them, and we were successful at getting a $2 million settlement, which was the policy limit for Jeffrey's family, and now his kids use that money. But to bring it back to this case, so I recently settled a similar case for $5 million.
Okay.
This case was interesting because this is the first time I represented a couple. So you have a girl, she has a boyfriend, they share a child in common. While they are leaving their apartment complex, someone tailgates into the property. There's a history of tailgating at this property. The security guards know about it.
Yeah.
Literally follows someone in and empties a clip, shoots probably 70 rounds into their car, kills the boyfriend and shoots her in the head. She gets a brain damage. She's seriously injured. And now, her dad is gone. Right. So we were successful to prove that this property knew about crime. They didn't do anything to prevent future crime.
Yeah.
And we got $5 million for this family.
Wow. I was gonna say this question for later in the episode, but I think now is appropriate time. With you representing so many people from a wrongful death standpoint, how do you not internalize? What do you do to protect your mental health to not internalize the trauma associated with these cases?
It is tough, first of all, but you got to realize that comes with this business. Like my industry is death, wrongful death.
Yeah.
Right. So for the most part, I try to compartmentalize it. I try to like leave work at work, you know, and we're at home. So my wife, she's about to start practice, and she just passed the bars, getting sworn in.
Oh, shout out to her!
Wow.
So new baby on the way, plus passing the bar.
Yes.
Okay, got a winner.
Yes. So I bring that up because now she's working in the office, and and she's a baby lawyer, so she'll still be at home talking about work. I'm like, babe, let's not do that. Let's leave work at work, and at home, this is our time. So I try to separate it.
Okay.
I try to, so like I said, I compartmentalize it, and I try to just unwind. Whenever time I'm thinking about something like that, I just remember what I'm doing it for, and this just comes along with it. But I try to take as many like mental breaks as possible to not dwell on the fact that I'm dealing with traumatic injuries and death cases.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest misconception about wrongful deaths? Because again, I came from South Side of Chicago. A lot of people got shot there. I'm sure there are plenty of open cases that people didn't know they could fight to be able to get a resolution for a really, really unsettling situation. So how does somebody know if they have a case to fight?
That's a great question. Number one, I would always say, talk to a lawyer first. Okay. Like, don't just assume you don't have a case. Okay. There's a lot of people who have come to me right on the cuff of the statute of limitations, which is a deadline by which you have to file a lawsuit, or else your claim will be forever barred. So people have been lucky to call me like a week or a month before.
And what is that statute? So
in Florida, it's 2 years.
Okay.
Right. So it doesn't matter if it's a personal injury, a car accident, or a death case. It's 2 years. It used to be 4 years. A couple years ago, the legislator, I can go into another story about that, but they changed it. It's only 2 years now in Florida.
Okay.
And it varies from state to state, but for the most part, I think it's 2 years in a lot of states.
Okay.
So number one, speak to a lawyer.
Gotcha.
Don't just assume you don't have a case, but specifically coming to shooting cases, I think the biggest misconception I hear, and it's from not just your everyday citizen, but even some lawyers, are like, well, isn't it the criminal who is at fault? The person that pulled the trigger? Why are you suing this club if the club didn't pull the trigger?
Right.
But we're not suing the club for actually coming and intentionally killing someone. We're suing them for creating a haven for these criminals to act, right?
Gotcha.
For enabling it. If you know that you're in an area of town where people are just toting pistols, shooting all the time, and you don't do the basic thing like check guns at the door, check, have somebody pat somebody down, and somebody comes in. I just settled a case last month. Someone came into a bar, got into a fight. He was kicked out. Instead of watching this guy go home, they let him walk into the car, arm himself, take out a gun, come back and execute my client in the middle of the bar. And this happened in Fort Pierce. So things like that, those are the biggest misconceptions that, yes, the criminal does bear some responsibility, full responsibility, but that's in the criminal justice system. Right. Yeah. We are operating in the civil justice system, which is separate. We're dealing with negligence of people who are civilly wrong, not the criminal who's, hopefully they're being criminally held, prosecuted, death penalty, whatever it is on the criminal side. That's not my lane. My lane is to get people civil and financial justice, not criminal justice.
Gotcha. Speaking of financial justice, I mean, obviously, a lot of the guests we have, we do kind of take the financial lens in terms of so you help people get these settlements.
Yes, sir.
Right. And while you're not necessarily a financial advisor, what is some of the advice you give to people on really kind of protecting the biggest nest egg or financial windfall that they get, potentially in their entire lifetime?
Man, I tell them like this, that money you're getting is tax free. First of all, that's like the one financial thing I can tell them. It is tax free. That's all I know. Everything else I send them to y'all. Wealth management, CPA, y'all handle it. Yeah. But I tell them, this money has to last you. Especially if you have a devastating injury where you're no longer able to work, you got to let that money work for you into perpetuity, right? And The problem is, a lot of my clients, you hear the saying, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Right.
Right. So I've told them, a lot of clients listen, do take my advice. But sometimes, you give a 19-year-old kid $1 million.
Right.
I don't know what would you do at 19 years old? You had $1 million.
I wouldn't be here to tell the story.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I try to put them in the right spaces where they can, learn from people like you and invest the money accordingly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that hasn't been that prevalent. I've seen the opposite. I've seen, 19-year-olds blow through $500,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. I've had clients now who are, got evicted because of, after having millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but financial literacy is something that we need to teach. And unfortunately, I can't teach them that, when they're an adult.
Right.
I can give them advice. I can say, hey, call George, call Carter, can talk to them. Whether or not they sit down and actually do it, it's up to them.
Whether it's something that you handle directly or just seen within your industry, what's one of the wildest personal injury claims that you've ever come across? I know you post like a lot of different things online.
So wildest, I've seen a lot. There was one case where someone had sex. So this girl had sex with a boyfriend or something inside of a car.
Yeah.
Right. He gave her HPV. She then sued him and tried to get insurance through his car.
Yeah.
Car insurance is like, man, this has nothing to do with the car. This is not we don't cover this.
Right.
It turned out they were wrong. And when you blow off someone, like let's say that someone files a lawsuit against you and the insurance company just ignores it, and they turn out to be wrong, they can be on the hook for a lot later. Wow. So the court actually imposed, I forget how much million they ended up being liable for, just because this guy gave somebody HPV by having sex in the car.
Gots to be more.
Gots to be.
Yeah, man. I see a lot of stuff. And there's this dude, I think it was Stephen Smith, he's being sued because every state is different. I think is it Texas?
Might be.
I think it might be Texas where there's a case where it's like this NFL analyst who is I don't know if he's married and he's creeping with a married woman.
Steve Smith Jr. He played for the Ravens, wide receiver for the Ravens.
Sir. And the Panthers
and they have he played for the Panthers. He did play for the Panthers too. Yeah.
So the husband is now suing him, saying, "Hey, you interfering with my marriage." I forget the actual tort, what it's called.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fly in Florida. But some, you got to look at the state. Different depends on what state you live in.
Yeah.
You could be on the hook for a lot of money.
Yeah.
For just depending on the certain mistakes you make.
Right.
So the wildest, I would say, that's pretty wild. And then having sex in the car, catching HPV, and then getting sued for it. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
My question is, so we interview a lot of real estate investors, a lot of event space investors, and people probably listen to this episode like, dude, I don't want to own real estate. I don't want to own an apartment complex. I don't want to own a club. I don't want to own a restaurant because I could be liable
Yes, sir.
for someone getting injured on my property. How does the institution, the real estate owner, the property manager, the restaurant owner, what do they need to do to protect themselves from getting sued in a case like this?
That's a great question. So what I recommend to people, because I don't want people thinking it's the wild, wild west. You just sue somebody just because something happened, right? Just because there's been countless cases I've turned down because the property owner did the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? They actually had security on staff. They had an off-duty police officer.
Yeah.
I have a case right now where someone was shot and killed right in front of an off-duty police officer.
Jeez.
Literally right in front of them. And those are the cases where you can't really prevent. If somebody's bound to kill you right in front of the police.
In front of the police, is like, bro, like, come on, bro. Like,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't want to get that. Let's fix that misconception. But what I tell people is, just hire a security vulnerability expert.
Okay.
Right, ahead of time before something happens. And it's cheap, right?
Yeah.
Have them come and do something called a CEPTED analysis, right?
Okay.
A property analysis where they look at the crime rate. They give you instructions as what your property could benefit from. They look at, okay, how many cameras would you need in a property like this? So let's say, God forbid, something happens and you're sued. You can point and say, listen, I followed all the instructions of this security consultant.
Yeah.
That's what I hired him for.
Right.
What happens in a lot of my cases is they didn't even take that basic step, right? So a lot of the cases they haven't taken that step, and because of that, they're the blame for it.
Got you. Let's take it a different direction, actually. So, how long have you been an attorney?
So I've been practicing now for 10 years now. 10 years. March 23rd 2015.
Okay, congratulations on a decade in the game, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
So
sir.
for someone listening to this episode, right? I mean, because you hear about, there's so many different aspects of law. There's trademark. You know, this is my first time personally interviewing somebody in your specific field. But for someone listening who might be interested in either making a career transition or interested in your field, like what advice or insight would you give them on being successful in this industry?
Number one, I would say follow your heart and do what you enjoy doing, right? Mm-hmm. Don't go into an area of law where you think, okay, I'm going to do this for the sole reason to make money.
Right.
If you do something that you're passionate about, your passion is going to turn into money, right? So if you're passionate about helping people, it just so happened that, so I didn't go out looking to do negligent security or wrongful death. My very first case, as I mentioned, happened because I knew someone who was shot and killed, and I turned that into money for his family and for me. So if you're passionate about something and you go into that field, I think you're more likely to be successful if you enjoy doing it. Right? I don't wake up in the morning and dread, oh man, I gotta go to work today. It's something I genuinely enjoy doing. I have fun doing this. I love getting great results for clients. So I think if you follow that, the money will come.
Facts.
Yeah. Is it legal for, I'm pretty sure it is, it's not legal in the accounting space, but I'm pretty sure in your space it is, can you charge your client a percentage of the win that you give them?
That's a great question. So not only is that legal, that is the way we operate as personal injury lawyers.
Really?
So so the good thing, that differentiates how we charge versus how we as in personal injury, wrongful death, versus a criminal defense or a family law attorney or in those situations, you got to pay a retainer.
Retainer, exactly.
Yeah, so 5,000, 10,000, whatever.
Right.
I can represent somebody who's homeless who doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
Because what they sign with me is something called a contingency fee contract. What does that mean? That means me getting paid is contingent upon me getting you money. So if I don't get you any money, let's say I spend a year on the case, a year, and I spend $50,000 hiring experts, taking depositions, and I get nothing. We're zipped. You don't owe me a penny. That $50,000, I gotta eat those costs. That's how. So, but now if we get $1 million, typically the fee is my portion is anywhere between 1/3 and 40% of that.
Gotcha.
Wait a second. Hold on. I mean, we don't pocket watch. We don't pocket watch on the show. But wait a second. So, if somebody comes to you, they have a case. You look at it. You have a case. You help them win $1 million. $400K.
Depending on what stage of litigation. In Florida, if I did not have to file a lawsuit, I'm getting $333,333.33 for that case. If we filed the lawsuit and the defendant answered and we're taking depositions, all that stuff, I'm getting $400,000.
Contingency.
Is it too late to switch? You know what I'm saying? But no, and I think that is really profound because especially in the Black community, they're intimidated to reach out to a lawyer because how much is it going to cost me to do so?
That's one of the biggest misconceptions, especially in personal injury. They're like, oh man, I can't afford you. You know how many clients I've heard say that? No matter how many billboards you see where it says like 0 fees unless we win, it's like it still hasn't been fully ingrained into the masses. Where I'm constantly educating people. They're like, how much do I owe you? I'm like, no, you don't pay me anything. My fee comes out of that check once I get the money from the insurance company. So we're never exchanging money ever. There's no scenario where a client has ever handed me money. My money comes out of the settlement check. Once the insurance company sends that $1 million, I deposit into my trust account. Once the client, I give them an accounting for everything, where every penny is going. They sign something called a closing statement. I then transfer that money from my trust account into my personal or my operating account.
Love it. I can imagine that you're a busy man, right? You have, one child, another one on the way, a wife, family man. How do you balance, if that's even the right word, building this successful firm with just all the things you have going on in life?
Man, that's a great question. You got to have the right team around you.
Okay.
Right. I learned early on at my former firm that you can't do everything. You can't be a jack of all trades. Right. You have to know what you specialize in and then delegate the rest.
Yep.
So, I have an awesome paralegal, support staff, associate, intake specialist. And when it's time for so I'm able to be out here in market. I can come on the Melanin Money podcast, but work is still getting done back in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
So you can't have your hand in every single pot. You got to delegate and make time for what's really important. You know, self-care is important to me. Spending time with family is important. I have to take multiple trips a year with my family. That's just something that we decided.
You just got back from what, Paris?
Okay, I saw
that.
You've been okay.
Yes,
Yes, sir. So, me and my wife, we had a baby moon in Europe. So, we went to London and then Paris and then back to London and then back to South Florida. Okay. And then the couple weeks before that, we went to Dubai with the urban golf.
Yeah. Shout out to you. You gonna be here today?
Yeah. Cliff. Yeah. Hell yeah. So, but I have to take a few international trips a year.
So travel
just to get my mind right, man. You know,
I've been trying to tell him you got to get on the wave. Like I was in Dubai for the entire month of December. I'm like,
it's amazing.
Not Dubai. I was in Bali for the entire month of December, and I'm like, this is how I recharge. Yes. Like without as high value men that operate businesses that our team is pulling from us, our families is pulling from us, our spouses are pulling from us. Like we have to take time to recharge, and I don't think there's anything better to do than taking the trip. You know?
Absolutely, man. You got to. Got to. Yeah. You know, when I came back from Paris just now, I felt completely recharged. I bought these shoes in Paris. Yes, sir. I bought these, and they had a really nice outlet in Paris. Yeah, it's like a popular outlet. Yeah. And we went there. My wife and I. She got some shoes, some bags. You know, and I feel great.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What would you say has been your most? Obviously, you have the first case, right? That was great. What would you say has been your most rewarding case of all time that you've done?
My most rewarding. It's a combination. So the first one, nothing hits like that first. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Especially when that wire come in.
I was trying not to go there, but I'm like, bro, I know. I know that first check.
That episode with Drewski and I can't remember his name. Dude from Complex magazine.
Funny Marco.
Nah. What's his name? Anyways, more of the story is they're doing an episode. It's like act like the money changes thing.
He said, "Make money good, dog. Money good, dog."
So funny story. I don't think y'all know this. So I was on. Let me tell you how I got my first $1 million case.
Okay, talk to me.
All right. So I was on a TV show called The Bachelorette.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, well, all the guys who were going after one girl.
Exactly. I wasn't the main guy, so I wish.
But I was about to say, I had me up, but go ahead.
It was me, 30 other guys going after one woman, Rachel Lindsay. She was the first black bachelorette. She's an attorney. She is out in California doing her thing. Mm-hmm. So this is 2017. I go on the show, and then I become somewhat popular.
Yeah.
When I come back, I'm working at a personal injury firm for less than a month, right? I am in Publix shopping. Publix is a store in South Florida. Yeah. It's like, Kroger's or whatever. Mm-hmm. This lady, older black lady, she goes, "I know you." I'm like, "You don't know me. Where you know me from?" Yeah. She's like, "No, you were on The Bachelorette." I'm like, "All right." We struck up a conversation. I had never, ever signed up a case. I had never done I've been at this firm for less than a month. Yeah. Right? She says, "I'm shopping for my best friend because her daughter was just killed in a car accident." Damn. I go, "Oh my God." Yeah. What can I do to help? Mm-hmm. Right? She tells me to come and speak to her family. They live in the hood. They're in an apartment half the size as this, quarter the size of this, probably 25 people in there. Yeah. I drive over there at 7:00 at night. I stop in my office, get the retainer we were just talking about, where it has a 30% and a 40%. So I stop, I grab a retainer, I go to the family, I talk to them, I sign the case up. They're like, look where we're at, Josiah. Nobody over here is gonna have serious insurance. Look where our family member was killed. I send out a letter to the insurance company the next day. It turns out this person who ran over this lady owned multiple jewelry stores, convenience stores. He had a long Arabic name, and we send out a letter. The adjuster calls me and says, "Mr. Graham, the insurance policy there's a $300,000 policy, and he has a $1 million umbrella policy, and we are tendering the policy." So literally, I did no work. Someone knew me from a show. I sent out a letter, and then they paid $1.3 million the next week. That was my first settlement. And then I'm at this firm. Mind you, they're only paying me like $70,000 a year, but that was a lot to me because I came from the state attorney's office. I was at the government making $40,000 a year, $40,000 a year.
Yeah, so we almost doubled up.
I'm like good. 70, you know what I mean? I'm good.
Outside. Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, I see this 1.3. Hold on now. I'm calculating the thirds and the 40%.
Yeah. Like just carrying the 7.
So I go to my boss and like, yo, listen, typically, you get 25%. Yeah. If a lawyer refers me a case right now, they're automatically getting 25. Excuse me,
just on the
referral fee 25% in Florida. Now some people might do a third, even 50%. Yeah. They're getting 25%. So I'm like, I'm working for you, right? Yeah. I'm bringing the case to you. I'm not sending it out. Yeah. So I would normally get it's Josiah, you're just an associate. We're not a partner.
And then the villain era started.
Man, they give you all that bullshit, right? Yeah. So long story short, I was convincing, and then he said, okay, so 25% of the fee was around $400,000. He wrote me a check for $100,000. I'm like 30 years old, 29 years old. Yeah. This is the biggest check. I almost cried. I went from making $40,000, then 70, then I get a check for $100,000. It's just been up since then. So why not? Listen, and so now I have my own firm. I don't have to worry about getting 25% of $400,000. I can keep that whole $400,000. So that was one of the biggest motivating factors for me jumping ship and opening my own law firm. So I'll never forget that, because although it's not the biggest result, it's not the most amount of money, it had the biggest impact at the time because it was $100,000.
Relatively, it was the most money you've had and probably will have, because relativity
where I went from.
Exactly.
I mean, you could do the math. So 40% of $5 million, that's $2 million. I just told you about. But that 100,000, man, oh my God.
That first 100, I was up.
Hey, look, I like that first one, man. Yeah, at one time too.
At one time.
When you check the account, that 100 hit.
Yeah.
First time. That's the first time I ever saw a comma in my account. I almost cried.
Yeah.
A comma in the account.
Yeah,
it's
man.
crazy.
It's something, man. To see that, oh my God, that was an amazing experience.
That was one of those ones.
Yeah. I have a question. So as high earning entrepreneurs that we are, right? What can we do to protect ourselves from potentially getting sued? Because you mentioned umbrella insurance.
Yes.
Right? So I want to talk about that.
Yep.
Is getting an umbrella insurance policy a wise decision, and what can it protect you from?
Absolutely. So I have an umbrella policy.
Yeah.
Okay. So your general car accident insurance, right? Your general bodily injury insurance, it's gonna be like, $100,000.
Yeah.
So God forbid I go in the car, get in a car accident, I injure someone or worse. They sue me. My insurance company steps in to protect me. They provide a lawyer, and they say, well, we'll protect Josiah up to X, up to whatever that amount is that you purchased, right? So if it's $100,000, it's $300,000.
Yeah.
That's great because most cases a lawyer is going to take whatever that is offered from the insurance company, because they're like, the risk of saying, we're not going to take that, let's sue Carter, let's sue George and try to get more. It's risky because we don't know if that person has money. We don't know if they're, they put their money in their spouse's account, or they can file for bankruptcy, right? But when somebody's really worth a lot of money, and you see just 100,000, like, it would be malpractice of a lawyer if I kill someone and a lawyer sues me and I only have 100,000 and he takes that, knowing damn well I am worth way more than 100,000. It would be malpractice to take that 100,000.
Right.
So I know that. So I'm not walking around here with that limited policy. So you purchase something called an umbrella policy.
Gotcha.
Umbrella policy covers everything we're talking about, just general negligence. If I'm not paying attention, if I'm drinking and driving or whatever. So I have an umbrella policy of $1 million, which is on top of whatever policy I have.
Gotcha.
So my car has a $300,000 policy on it. So if someone sues me, like I mentioned that case early on, my first case, I got $1.3 million. It's because that person had a $300,000 policy and $1 million umbrella. It's hard to walk away from $1.3 million.
Yeah, and he was protected. So
that guy was protected.
Wow. So his jewelry stores,
everything is protected. So I didn't go after that, right?
Yeah.
I saw that 1.3. The family was okay with taking that 1.3 million. There it's like, okay, let's, wash our hands and let's leave with this, as opposed to fighting to get whatever is in his company, which is unpredictable.
Right.
I mean, a prime example is it's so hard to collect sometimes. The game was sued.
I just saw that recently.
The game was sued, right? And I don't know if he's really culpable of what they're alleging he did. The problem is he made the biggest mistake. He didn't put up a defense. A lot of people, sometimes they get sued and be like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm not going to actually fight it. I didn't hire a lawyer.
Right.
Big mistake, because you can get something called a default judgment. If you don't even show up, the court says, all right, you are liable for whatever they are alleging. Yeah. So that's what the victim and the client, plaintiff in that situation got. Yeah. So she got an award of like over $7 million, maybe like a decade ago. Yeah. She's been trying to collect it. He's been putting money in different places. He has a manager called Whack 100, right?
Oh, that's his manager?
Yeah. He had Whack 100 he put his house in like Wack's name. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
So moving assets out my name, so now you can try.
And what the court said is like, nah, that's a sham transaction or whatever. So the court just the other day said that he has to sell his Calabasas mansion to pay her. To pay out.
That's crazy.
To satisfy that $7+ million judgment. Yeah,
because he didn't want to seek defense.
Because he wanted to. Now, had he been smart, had he just told his insurance company about it, right, or reported it to his insurance company, he could have had them defending him for free of charge, because that's what he pays them for. But he took that lawsuit, he looked at it, probably threw it in the trash and laughed, and he's in the situation where he is in now. So you gotta protect your assets. If you're getting sued, call a lawyer ASAP. You have a certain amount of time to respond to that lawsuit. You gotta and get umbrella insurance. If you're a wealthy person, you gotta have significant insurance
what's some providers
personally and for your businesses as well.
What's some providers that people can go to?
You can go to State Farm, you can go to Geico, all of those different providers. I think on my vehicles, I have State Farm right now. I had Geico before, but then I forget why we switched over. Yeah. But I have State Farm now on my vehicles. I forget the name for my.
Like I'm just taking a note to get some umbrella insurance. Sure. I'm like today, before this episode come out, I will have umbrella insurance.
And here's the thing. Here's another thing. A lot of people, let's say you, God forbid, you're in a car accident and the person who hit you doesn't have insurance, has no money. You can still get paid if you have something called uninsured motorist coverage on your policy. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. So a lot of people reject that because on their policy, when you purchase insurance, insurance you're purchasing is to protect you from someone coming after you. Right. But there's also something you can select is umbrella insurance, uninsured motorist coverage, which pays you a lot of money if someone injures you and they don't have money. So let's say I'm in a car accident, me and my family, and a drunk driver hits us. Turns out this person is impoverished, has no money. Right. I can go after my own insurance company and say, he doesn't have insurance. You got to pay me for my damages up to $300,000, actually 1.3. The $300,000 plus the $1 million umbrella.
Wow.
The more you know.
Yes.
So protected on both sides.
Absolutely. So that's if you leave with anything today, get umbrella insurance and get uninsured motorist coverage.
Facts.
Yes, sir.
So it's no secret that our platform, obviously, we super serve people that look like us, right? Because, to your point, you growing up in the hood and, you had to represent one of your friends' cases, right? Like this information that you're sharing, that our guests share is rare. And so my question to you, out of all the things that you've accomplished, like what does being a melanin millionaire mean to you?
Man, I love that question. It means that it's possible, right? And it's possible because you say people who look like us. Growing up, I saw a podcast the other day, man, and it was a brother from the Nation of Islam, and he was differentiating between people of color when we play sports growing up, right, and white people, right? And when we play sports, we focus on playing sports, and what we take away is, oh my God, this is my only way out. I'm going to go to the NBA, the NFL. And what he was saying was when you see some of our white brothers playing sports, they're taking the lessons in the discipline, all of the learning about failure, about the grit of determination. Right. Those are the things they take from the sports. It's not like I just want to become this athlete, right? So it means so much to me that I was able to attain success without going down that same route where we felt like that was the only route possible
Right.
to get success.
Facts.
And some of the things I try to instill in the younger generation, the younger community, is you can be anything you want to be. Look what you guys are doing. Look at this amazing platform you guys
Appreciate that,
have.
man. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And you don't have to be an entertainer. You don't have to be an athlete. And not to brag, my house I just bought for $2.3 million. I bought it from an athlete. I bought it from Shady McCoy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my dog. Shout out
Yeah,
Eagles,
shout
man.
out
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
Super dude. No knock to any athletes because what they're doing is amazing. And shit, if I could do it, then I would.
Yeah.
But that's not the only avenue.
Yeah. But we
That's
can
not
we can make the
only-
same money in a different lane.
Right. Without beating up our
Yes.
bodies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have more longevity.
Yes.
Our career is not limited to 10 years
Right.
max, right? Or maybe a little bit more. I mean, if you're like a phenom like LeBron.
LeBron James, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right. The
Yeah.
exception to the
you know,
rule.
you can be I mean, you know how many lawyers I know have been practicing over 50 years? Nah, I don't advise it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
not gonna
Own
be
the firm.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
but
But
50 years at 40%, man.
2 more years. 2 more
Man,
years.
they
I'm
got-
gonna hang it up, honey.
You know what I'm saying? They just made a movie of this. One of my idols, Willie Gary. Jamie Foxx starred in that movie about this black attorney from Stewart, Florida, getting
Yeah.
billion-dollar verdicts. I'm talking about like one of the rarest, some of the biggest verdicts in the country. And this guy's still practicing. I think he's about 80 years old, and he's been killing it. This man had 2 jets, and he calls them the wings of justice.
Jesus.
Of justice.
Yeah,
Those are the
Yeah.
things I looked up to. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want that type of money.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want longevity. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be beat up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to have a staff of 20, 30 employees.
Yeah.
and make them just to see the money coming in. You know,
You about to find us a new niche, bro.
Yeah.
Personal injury attorney. Advisors to person. Because y'all getting money.
Yeah.
Melanin money at that.
hey, man,
Um,
money. So
man,
yeah,
yeah.
man. If there's anything to take away, I would tell these kids, man, it's like you could do it all. You
Yeah.
don't that being an athlete is that's not the only lane.
Love it. Love it. Man, but we appreciate you for coming on the show.
Hey, I appreciate y'all for
Man,
having me,
I'm pretty sure some people looking up the fast track to personal
Yeah,
injury
yes,
attorneys right
facts,
now,
yeah.
but and also just how they can protect and mitigate their own risk in
Yes,
what they do.
absolutely.
So appreciate you for sharing those gems, man. Until next time, y'all.
Hey,
Peace.
All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please check out the other content that we have on this channel. But before you go, I wanted to remind you again not to forget to check out the Black Primacy app. It is the best way to connect with Black-owned businesses near you. They need your support. We need your support. Link in the description.